Mm-hmm. Oh, Chag Sameach. Happy Passover.
Happy
Passover.
Passover.
Can you see that? Yeah.
How's everyone doing tonight?
Doing good.
Oh, you know where the view is, Jeff? You can get a
I'm-
speaker.
I have to leave. I have to leave and come back to fix my audio.
Okay.
Were you muted? No.
No.
It's nice to be able to actually have two Seders. So have had one last night at home, just Sam and me, and then to have this tonight. So have my seat for the stranger.
Awesome. Elijah's chair.
Down at the bottom.
We supposed to be muted or not?
No, we're gonna have an interactive Seder. So when we sing, we might want to mute so that it doesn't sound like complete chaos. But if you'd like to do a reading, I would love to have some volunteers to help out with some English readings throughout the service. We're also going to play a few games depending on how playful everyone is feeling tonight. So I'll pull up our slideshow. Did everyone see it? Thumbs up. Okay. So we begin with intention. Tonight we gather with our Orami family to recount our people's miraculous journey from slavery to freedom. For 3,000 years, each generation has taught this story to the next, using symbolic foods, festive songs, and thoughtful questions. Our sacred textbook tonight, the Haggadah, teaches us that the ultimate purpose of the Seder is for each individual in every generation to feel as though they had personally gone out of Egypt. As we eat, sing, and ask questions tonight, we are reminded of the ultimate questions of Passover. What will we do with these memories of slavery? Will we shrug them off with indifference? Will we use them to fuel our anger over injustices? Or will we use them to develop empathy for others? As free people, the choice is ours. It is up to us, the next generation, to decide. We begin our Seder proper with a glass of wine, the first of 4 times that we will enjoy the fruit of the vine tonight. The vine is tenacious, growing toward light without knowing what darkness may lie beyond. As it makes its way, it grows stronger, intertwining with other vines. In time, it will fruit, and the fruit will ripen and be sweet. And so it is with us, as we set out on our individual paths, often unaware of our ultimate destinations, we find strength in the intersection of our lives with the lives and destinies of others. Community arises, sustaining and nourishing, as we seek to find our way. The fruit of the vine is life, lived to its fullest potential. The fruit of the vine is a symbol of freedom, meaning, and fulfillment. That is why the fruit of the vine is such a fitting symbol for the 4 promises of freedom that God shares with our ancestors in the Torah. Promise 1, I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. Promise 2, I will rescue you from their slavery. Promise 3, I will redeem you with an outstretched arm. Promise 4, I will take you as my people and be yours as your God. As we recall these 4 promises, we relive the hope and joy that each promise evoked in our ancestors. Now, if you have your glass of wine, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Chaim. Through the Seder ritual, we are transported to the emotional world of our ancestors as they celebrated an end to sorrow and suffering and the beginning of a new life as free people. We recall that this joyous transformation took place in the spring when signs of new life were blossoming all around them. And during Passover, it's tradition to read a book from the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, which is ancient love poetry that was interpreted as an allegory representing the love that God had for the people of Israel and vice versa. But as you can see, it's generally just beautiful love poetry. In this excerpt here, we'll read a passage in English, and then we'll listen to another passage from the same book being sung in Hebrew. Is there anyone who would like to read this passage? Okay. Unmute. Joel?
Rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away, for lo, the winter's past, and the rain is gone, the flowers appear on the earth. The time of singing is come, and the voice of the turtle is heard. The fig tree bringeth forth her green figs, and the vines in blossom bring forth their fragrance. Rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away.
Now we're going to listen to another excerpt from this book. The sound's not working.
ונהרות לא ישטפו כשושנה בין החוכים, כן רעייתי בין הבנות, כשושנה בין החוכים, כן רעייתי בין הבנות. אנה פנה לך דודך היפה בנשים, אנה פנה לך דודך היפה בנשים. כשושנה
Okay, so that was from an Israeli singer whose grandparents on one side come from the Jewish community of India, and grandparents on the other side come from the Jewish community of Yemen. And she was singing this line from the book of Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs, which is like a lily among the thorns, so is my beloved. So thinking of all the things that bloom in spring, the hope we have for a better future, young love, all of the good things in life are popping up around this time of year. So I'll pull up our okay. So now, speaking of spring and the symbols of spring, we take a green vegetable like parsley, a symbol of spring and new life, and we dip it in a symbol of the old life that we are leaving behind. So this symbol is the salt water, which reminds us of the tears that our ancestors cried when they suffered under slavery. So dip your parsley. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri ha'adamah. And if you want to look at your Seder plate for a moment and think about all of the different symbols on it. Over the years, we have added different symbols to represent new and various types of oppression. So we're used to the bitter herbs representing slavery in the past. Today, some people add tomatoes to represent the harsh conditions, to bring attention to the harsh conditions of farm workers who are sweating and working as hard as our ancestors worked in Egypt. Some people add an olive to their Seder plate to represent the hope for peace between Israelis and Palestinians. Many people have an orange, which has rolled away. So an orange on the Seder plate to represent, there's a couple different variations of the story. The original version was the seeds of the orange represent prejudice, specifically homophobia. And we want to keep the good things, right, the sweet fruit, but spit out those seeds of prejudice. And when I grew up, I didn't hear that version of the story because it was still not widely talked about. So the main version that many people know is that someone told a female rabbi that women belong on the bima as much as an orange belongs on the Seder plate. So there's different versions of that story. But today I want to do a little game with you, which is, we don't have to be serious about the symbols, but you can if you'd like. Let's add some things to our Seder plate. So I have one person find an object near you, and another person, they could be sitting there with you in the room or joining with you over Zoom, to explain why that object belongs on a Seder plate. So one example, if I call on Judy and she holds up a high-heeled shoe, then I call on Rachel and she says, oh, the high-heeled shoe represents the oppression of uncomfortable dress shoes, right? So it can be a little bit playful, and sometimes there's a little bit of truth in it, right? And it can be, however you'd like to take it. So who would like to pull up a random object for us to justify? It looks like Judy's holding something up, so make sure you're unmuted.
Here we go. I have a yahrzeit bumble, a yahrzeit candle.
All right. Who wants to explain why a yahrzeit candle belongs on the Seder plate? It could represent a form of oppression or a form of freedom.
Isabel Cohen.
All right. I'll go with maybe it represents freedom, in that especially Jews in the former Soviet Union were banned from practicing their religion. So to have something like a yahrzeit candle, right, was an act of rebellion and an act of asserting your freedom, even in a situation where they're saying, no, you can't be who you are. Who wants to hold up another object? Yeah.
Susan.
Hi, Susan.
Okay, I've got a watch.
A watch. How does a watch represent freedom or oppression? You can spitball it, doesn't have to be deep. Yeah, Judy, what do you think?
I'm thinking because we have to be ever alert for our freedoms, because we know that dictators can come in at any time, like Putin is doing in the Ukraine, and we have to watch and be vigilant about that.
I like the pun, to watch, right, and be vigilant. Excellent. Any other objects? Maybe one more. It looks like Marilyn has something. Make sure you're unmuted.
It's a pacifier
A pacifier.
for our 2.5-year-old granddaughter who needs to be liberated from her comfort zone and strike out.
Excellent.
Pacifier free one day.
One day she'll lose the binky. All right. Well, awesome. I love that you offered an object and an explanation. So we're going to keep going. Okay. So moving towards our broken piece of matzah. When we hear the word brokenness, we may first think of loss, suffering, hopelessness, or broken spirit. But there is also another kind of breaking, the breaking open of the heart that puts us in touch with our deeper selves and that may even serve as a gateway to wholeness. Wholeness can mean embodying our fully authentic selves or a feeling that we are part of something bigger, a greater whole. While there is much brokenness in the world, we yearn and strive for wholeness. The pursuit of wholeness is the human calling. So if you want to bring out your plate with matzah or 3 pieces of matzah, we're going to take the middle piece and break it in half to create an afikomen. So 1/2's always a little bit bigger than the other, and that piece will be our afikomen. So you can put it in a napkin or a special afikomen bag to hide for later.
There's a napkin underneath.
And you can hold up our matzah as we recall one of its symbolic meanings. This is the bread of affliction, which our ancestors ate in the land of Egypt. Let all who are hungry come and eat with us. Let all who are in need of spiritual nourishment come and celebrate Passover. Today we are here, next year in the land of Israel. Today we are slaves, next year we will be free. And now we come to our 4 questions. I'm going to ask, I'm not going to ask who's the youngest here, but actually, Esther, do you know the 4 questions?
Yes.
Would you like to sing at least the first one, maybe all 4 if you feel comfortable?
Yeah.
Awesome.
The first one.
Yeah.
Ma nishtana halayla miko halaylo. Now you want me to sing the second part?
Sure, keep going.
Shebeko halaylos anu clean. Hamed umasa halayla haze kulo masa. Okay.
Good.
Sorry.
Excellent job, Esther. And we'll keep going. Shebecho halelot anu ochlin she'ar yirakot she'ar yirakot halayla hazeh maror maror halayla hazeh maror maror Shebechol halelot ein anu matbilin afilu ba'am echad halayla hazeh shetei ve'amin halayla hazeh shetei ve'amin Shebechol halelot anu ochlin ben yoshvimu ve'misubin Ben yoshvinu ve'misubin halayla hazeh kulanu mesubin halayla hazeh kulanu mesubin. And Esther, would you like to read what that means in English?
Start right here.
Why is this night different from all other nights?
Keep going until you're sick of reading.
On all other nights, we can eat leavened breads or matzah, but on this night, only matzah. On all other nights, we can eat all kinds of vegetables, but on this night, only bitter herbs. On all other nights, we don't usually dip our food even once, but on this night, we dip it twice. On all other nights, we can eat sitting up or reclining, but on this night, we all recline.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Esther. So 4 times the Torah tells us to teach your children about the Exodus from Egypt. 4 times we are reminded, and you shall tell your child on that day. From this, the sages of old infer that there are 4 kinds of people. And so at our Seder, we speak of children who are wise and those who reject our rituals and traditions, children who are simple and those who do not know how to ask. And we are taught to respond to them in different ways, according to their questions, their situations, and their needs. So you have our 4 children. Who would like to be the wise child tonight? All right, Isabel? Make sure you unmute.
The wise child. The wise child asks, What is the meaning of all these rules? I want to know all of the details. This child is proud to be a Jew and is interested in sharing experiences that are important to Jews. We answered this child by teaching them all the rules of Passover.
Excellent. And who's feeling wicked tonight? John?
The wicked child asks, why do you bother with all of these pointless rituals? This child does not try to understand the beauty of our tradition and even mocks those who find it meaningful. We answered this child by saying, I'm sorry you feel disconnected from your heritage. Please do not disparage those who cherish this connection.
And the simple child?
The simple child asks, what's this? This child needs to have the most important parts of the story explained to them in a clear and simple way. We answer this child by saying, we're doing all of these things tonight to celebrate when God freed us from slavery long ago.
And the child who does not know enough to ask. For the child who does not know enough to ask, we start from the beginning to build their knowledge and connection to the Exodus. Even if they are not saying much, we know that they are absorbing the essence of Passover while celebrating it in a supportive community. So each year we talk about the 4 children, and tonight we'll add a 5th child, the refugee child. So the 5th child, the refugee child, asks, who will keep me safe and when can I go home? The refugee child, one of the world's most vulnerable people, has no home to shelter them, no society to protect them, and in some cases, no family to love them. In 2020, over 33 million children around the world, including in addition to others, up to 4.5 million Ukrainian children just in the past several weeks, were forcibly displaced by conflict, famine, and disaster. The Passover Haggadah traces the Israelites' enslavement in Egypt back to Joseph and his brothers, whose desperation caused them to journey there because the famine was severe in the land of Canaan. This eternal story describes the risks faced by displaced people, especially children who are vulnerable to human trafficking, a modern word for enslavement. By reading the Haggadah at the Passover Seder, we acknowledge that the Exodus is not only a story from ancient times, but a story for all times. The Haggadah instructs that in every generation we must see ourselves as if we have personally left Egypt, and in every generation tyrants will rise up and try to destroy us. While the Haggadah attributes the triumphant outcome of the Exodus story to miracles, the Torah clearly demonstrates that it was only through human beings acting on behalf of an unaccompanied child, the remarkable courage of Moses' mother Yocheved and sister Miriam, and the empathy of Pharaoh's daughter, the journey from slavery to freedom could be set in motion. Not merely in every generation, but in every year, new tyrants arise against people around the world, and more innocent children become refugees. This Passover, we must not stop at seeing ourselves as the children of Israel who were slaves in Egypt. This year, we must act with the courage of Yocheved and Miriam and the caring of Pharaoh's daughter to raise our voices, devote our resources, and advocate passionately for concrete steps to bring the world's refugee children to safety. And that comes from Rabbi Julie Schoenfeld. So now we have kind of a mix of heaviness and playfulness tonight, right? That's the story of the Exodus, right? There's all the kind of bitterness of slavery, but all of the joy of freedom and redemption. So I know many people have gotten into the game Wordle over the past year. So we're going to try to guess a Passover related word with the Wordle. And if you get into it with the first one, we might do all 3 puzzles, but if it's a struggle, we'll just go on to our next thing. So if you haven't played Wordle before, you have to guess a 5-letter word. And if you get it right, the first guess, all of the letters will be green because every letter will be in the word and in the right spot in that word. If you put a word, right, if we guess a letter and a letter shows up gray, that means that letter is not going to be in the word we're looking for at all. If it shows up yellow, that means it's in the word, but it's in the wrong spot. So the E, for example in Passover, might be the beginning letter or the last letter, or just not in the middle spot. So use a little bit of logic, and also you have some help here that you know that it's at least in the realm of Passover things. So think of 5-letter Passover words, and we'll see what we can come up with.
Moses.
All right. Want to type in Moses?
Yeah.
Pesach.
Pesach.
Pesach. Try spelling it without a C.
Oh.
Yeah. It probably will tell us that it's not a real word because it doesn't really like Hebrew. But
Matzah.
You can't do it. You have to say it.
Oh,
yeah, just blurt out ideas you have.
We know there's an E in it.
slave.
Matzah doesn't have an
No,
E,
there's a
and
T in it.
so
There's
it
a T in it. now.
Oh,
Now we know there's a T.
yeah, sorry.
has to be a T in it too.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
So you got 3 more guesses. Can we get it?
Yachat.
Yeah.
How about Egypt? How about
It's there.
Egypt?
That's probably what it is.
There
Yep.
we go. Lori got it. Should we want to do one more, or was that enough word logic?
Enough. Basta.
Okay.
Enough.
All right. Good
Never
guesses.
done this. This is
One
my
of the
first
other
one.
puzzles was actually Moses. So if we had opened that, that would have been it. And the last one was the one Hebrew word that it seemed to recognize, which is maror. So
Roar.
the bitter herbs. Okay, so we'll pull up our. Okay, so now I'm going to need some help from volunteers to tell the story. So who'd like to read a couple of slides in English? You can just unmute and start going.
Telling the story. Long ago, our ancestor Jacob moved his family from the land of Canaan to the land of Egypt in order to find food during a famine. Do you want me to keep going?
Yep.
Okay. In those days, our ancestors were called Hebrews. The Hebrews were a relatively small group when they arrived in Egypt. Jacob's son Joseph was a handsome and intelligent man. He ended up serving as a trusted minister to the Pharaoh, or ruler of Egypt. Back then was a good time for the Hebrews. They were happy and grew in numbers. But then many years passed, and a new Pharaoh came to power. This new Pharaoh did not know anything about Joseph or how lovely the Hebrew people were. He saw the Hebrews as outsiders who could potentially side with Egypt's enemies in a time of war. So the Pharaoh tried to take away all of their power and freedom and ordered that the Hebrew people become slaves. They were forced to work day and night, making bricks and building cities for the Egyptians. It was a terrible time for the Jewish people. The Hebrews cried out to God and prayed that one day they would be free. God heard their cries and punished Pharaoh, as well as other cruel Egyptians, with 10 plagues.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Monica.
Sure.
Now, if you have your glass of wine, as we remember the 10 plagues, we remove 10 drops of wine, which symbolize joy, from our cup. Each drop of wine that we spill is a prayer to end the plagues that human beings bring upon one another. So you can dip your pinky or whichever finger you prefer and put a little dot on your napkin. So first one, dam, blood, svardeya, frogs, kinim, lice, arov, wild beasts, dever, cattle plague, shchin, boils, barad, hail, arbe, locusts, choshech, darkness, and makat bechorot, the slaying of the firstborn. So can I get another volunteer to continue the story?
After all 10 plagues, the Pharaoh was finally convinced that the Hebrew people had to be freed from slavery, and he allowed them to leave Egypt. The Hebrews started walking towards their homeland, excited to finally be free. But the Pharaoh changed his mind again. He sent his army to find the Hebrews and bring them back to slavery. The Hebrews had already traveled quite a distance. They had made it close to where Egypt met the sea. As they approached the sea, the Hebrews heard the rumbling of Egyptian chariots. The Hebrews looked behind them. The Egyptian army was getting closer. The Hebrews looked in front of them. The sea was roaring with powerful waves crashing into one another. There was nowhere to go. What were they going to do? Just when the Egyptians were about to catch up to the Hebrews and take them back into slavery, God told Moses to lift up his staff, and the waters of the sea parted miraculously, revealing dry land that the Hebrews could walk across to safety and freedom. Instead of letting the Hebrews go, the Egyptians continued to chase them. But after the last Hebrew made it safely to the other side, the sea began to revert to its normal state. The waters closed in, drowning the Egyptian soldiers and their heavy chariots.
So, remembering the humanity of the Egyptians. Our sages taught at the very hour that the Egyptians were drowning, the angels wanted to sing a song before the Holy One. And God said to them, "While my children are drowning in the sea, you would sing joyful songs in my presence?" Our history moves from slavery toward freedom. Our narration begins with degradation and rises to dignity. Our service opens with the rule of evil and advances toward the realm of God's peace and compassion. Gratitude. Passover is also a time to express gratitude. We are grateful that we are no longer enslaved in Egypt. We are grateful for the opportunity to be free and to rest each week on Shabbat. We are grateful to be Jewish and to have the Torah to guide us throughout our lives. We express gratitude for each of these blessings as we sing the song of Dayenu. Ilu hotzi anu mi mitzrayim anu mi mitzrayim dayenu. Dayenu, 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 dayenu. Ilu natan lanu eta Shabbat natan lanu eta Shabbat dayenu. Dayenu, 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 dayenu. Ilu natan lanu eta Torah natan lanu eta Torah dayenu. Last time. Dayenu, 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 dayenu. And of course, dayenu is one Hebrew word that means 5 English words. It would have been enough for us, actually, even more than 5. So in light of that, what are you grateful for tonight? I'd like for us to, everyone who's comfortable, to share something. And after someone shares, we can all say Dayenu together and add that to our list of things we're grateful for. So it could be something today, or it could be something from the past year.
I'm grateful to be healthy and to have a healthy family and to have new happy grandchildren.
Dayenu.
Dayenu. Rachel?
Grateful to be together.
Good to be with friends.
Dayenu.
Judy, did you have your hand?
That was mine. That was mine.
Grateful to be together. Wonderful. Yeah, Ariana?
I guess I was just going to say that I'm grateful to be able to be in a much better place than I was even a couple years ago. Like, I've gotten a lot better, like, healthcare, and I've been doing a lot better in general. So I guess just I'm just grateful for just all the little bits of progress I can make every year.
Awesome. Dayenu.
Thing.
That's very much in line with the Passover story, right? Starting kind of down low and climbing your way up bit by bit.
Okay.
So this brings us to our second cup. We again express gratitude and joy over the second promise of freedom in the Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. And now it's been so long since we've had this matzah. Right? We have two blessings for matzah, regular hamotzi, which we do for any bread, and then the special blessing just for eating matzah during Passover. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat matzah. And now we find another important Passover food, our horseradish. We say a blessing over that. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat maror. And if you want, you can make a little sandwich so you don't have to take a full bite of horseradish alone. Put some on your matzah. If you have some charoset handy, that definitely helps balance the flavor. And this begins kind of our meal portion. So people debate the history of sandwiches, but they call this the Hillel sandwich. And he used to eat it with the lamb from the original Passover offering on matzah as his bread, and then a little flavoring, almost like adding mustard to a deli sandwich. So, so we can all look for the same afikomen. I invite you to look at the screen and see which animal is eating the afikomen.
Monkey. The monkey.
Yeah, the monkey. So the afikomen in our little search was actually, it's a picture of a chimp at an Israeli zoo, which is about 4 or so miles outside of Tel Aviv. And we'll just watch some monkeys enjoying matzah for a second, which I'm sure you expected to do tonight at our Seder.
Reclining. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
I remember doing just that.
Yeah, and the grass as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I usually eat my matzah. It's laying in the grass at a zoo. It's tastes better
In
that way.
California, that was in David's California days, right?
You'll have to show Tourist Study how you do it.
Yeah. And speaking of animals, here's my favorite animal, Simone, who found our afikomen. Okay, so let's have some wine. Third cup. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. L'chaim. Now we come to Elijah in our Seder. Known as a miracle worker, the prophet Elijah is legendary for acts of kindness and healing, and for raising up the poor and the weak. At the end of his days on earth, Elijah's disciple Elisha had a vision of Elijah carried aloft in a fire. Many are the folktales of Elijah's return to earth to befriend and serve the sick, the helpless, and the suffering. These tales, in which the prophet often appears as a beggar, offered hope in the midst of poverty and persecution. These legends also point to the Messianic age, a future redemption, and when the most difficult conflicts will be resolved. And indeed, Elijah is known as the forerunner of the Messiah, a messenger from God who inspires hope where there is grief and teaches humble faith where there is doubt and uncertainty. As we open our doors to welcome Elijah, we pray that a time of joy and peace will soon arrive. So if you'd like, you can open a door. If you only have a window, I bet Elijah could shimmy through that as well. Got a special cup for Elijah. And we'll sing his theme song. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi, Bimhera ve'amenu, Yavo Eleinu, Imashiach ben David, Imashiach ben David. While we long for a better world, redemption is not yet complete. And so, recalling words that have shaped us as a people, we raise up the fourth cup. With this cup, we accept the tasks of justice and tikkun that still await us. And we honor the purpose of the Jewish people to affirm our covenant with God who freed us from slavery and to open doorways of hope to all. We lift up our glasses for the final time. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Chaim. The Seder for Pesach now comes to an end, its customs enjoyed and all the rites fulfilled, each in its proper order, each in its sacred way. We have taken a spiritual journey tonight, from slavery to freedom and from suffering to joy. We pray that everyone still afflicted or oppressed will be able to make a similar journey and enjoy the same freedoms that we cherish. Embracing our history and affirming our hope, we offer a Jewish prayer and a prayer for all humanity. L'shana haba'ah b'Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem, next year may everyone be free. So if anyone wants to sing some Passover songs, thumbs up if you want Chad Gad Ya, or we can move on to the next one. Okay. So the original version of Chad Gad Ya is probably a symbolic song talking about the different empires that conquered the land of Israel one after the other. So it's a little bit gruesome. This is a kinder, gentler Chad Gad Ya where no one gets hurt. But the chorus still sounds the same. Chad Gad Ya, thy father bought for 2 zuzim. Chad Gad Ya, then came the Holy One, blessed be he, who blessed the angel of light, who smiled at the butcher who fed the ox, that drank the water which quenched the fire, that warmed the stick that was fetched by the dog, that licked the cat, that nuzzled the kid, that my father bought for 2 zuzim. Chad Gad Ya, And many people have a tradition of adding little special sound effects for each element. So does anyone want to offer a goat sound for our kid for 2 zuzim? Excellent. How about a cat?
Meow.
And a dog? And a crackling fire?
Where the dog is that?
I wasn't giving him any food.
Or the water? Right, that puts out the fire. I have no idea what sounds oxen make. That's good. And the angel of light, we're like, oh. There we go. All right, so we've had our
There's no sound for God.
You're not on mute.
Does anyone want to try reading Who Knows One in English in one breath if possible? Someone with some good lungs, maybe a former trumpet player.
I'll read it, Rabbi.
Okay. Awesome.
My name is Linda.
Hey, Linda,
Who
thanks
knows
for joining.
why?
Linda, thanks for joining.
Thank you. Who Who knows 13? I know 13. 13 are God's attributes of mercy. 12 are the tribes of Israel. 11 are the stars in Joseph's dreams. 10 are the commandments. 9 are the months before birth. 8 are the days to the Brit Milah. 7 are the days in a week. 6 are the orders of the Mishnah. 5 are the books of the Torah. 4 are our matriarchs. 3 are our forefathers. 2 are the tablets of the commandment. And 1 is our God who is in heaven and on earth.
Excellent. Thank you, Linda. So this is
Thank
sort of
you.
like the game we played earlier of justifying why some new object should be on the Seder plate. Here it's find some reason, some explanation that all 13 numbers have a Jewish significance. So 1 is the easiest since the whole monotheism thing means one God. 2 tablets, right? 3 patriarchs or forefathers, right? 4 matriarchs, 5 books of the Torah. And then they start getting a little more creative, right? Okay. And then we've got 2 more songs. Would you rather do Miriam's song or go down Moses first? See, Judy, did you say Miriam?
Yeah, I love that song.
Okay. So sing along, clap along if you'd like. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And Miriam was a weaver of unique variety. The tapestry she wove was one which sang our history. With every strand and every thread she crafted her delight. A woman touched with spirit, she dances toward the light. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. When Miriam stood upon the shores and gazed across the sea, the wonder of this miracle she soon came to believe. Whoever thought the sea would part, and with an outstretched hand we would pass to freedom and march to the promised land. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And Miriam the prophet took her timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her just as she had planned. And Miriam raised her voice in song, she sang with praise and might. We've just lived through a miracle, we're gonna dance tonight. Last chorus. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. So some people have their Seder go all night long, but I figured since we didn't really stop for dinner that you're probably getting hungry. It was wonderful to have you all join for our Orimi Seder. Any questions or ideas about the Seder you'd like to share before we log off? Yeah, Judy?
Next year in Orami.
Yeah.
Yes.
Looking forward to it. All right. Well, Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Pesach Sameach.
Yeah.